So I grew up in a very stable, very loving household. Uh, I had two brothers and two sisters who are older than me. I was, shown so much love, but inside of me, always growing up, I was very, very insecure. I never felt comfortable in my skin. I always wanted people to like me. I would shapeshift and be a chameleon to fit in. I never really was myself because I was too scared to show, to show me. So, as that went on, I was always very uncomfortable. And then I was, at a later age, around 14 or 15, I was introduced to alcohol. I had some friends who had it. I'd already tried cigarettes. I tried, all those things. For me, it was never a question of, even when I was young, is if I was going to do drugs, it was when am I going to be able to do drugs? So when the opportunity first came about, I jumped all over it. And one thing that I noticed right off the bat is alcohol made me feel amazing. It made me feel like I could be myself. It made me feel, or not even be myself, but it could just make me not dislike being myself. And, so I just started drinking, and it wasn't something where it became a problem. I think a lot of it was, there were a lot of people around me at that age who were doing the same thing as me. So it wasn't anything that was, different. But for me, it was more of it was internal. It got me out of myself. And so as I started getting older, and I started having to socialize in high school and, going to college and those types of things, I use it as a crutch, and I use it as a way for me to feel comfortable. So slowly that cycle started becoming more and more prevalent, and I started going out more, and I started drinking more, and I started, thinking about alcohol, and I did drugs during this time too. It was something that I just kind of did on the side, but I definitely, I experimented with a lot of drugs too. And I was up in Portland, and I was hanging out, and I had a bunch of friends, and I was in college, and one morning I was really hungover, and they talk about hair of the dog, start drinking again. Well, I'd done that lots of times, but this time I had a really, bright idea. This time I was gonna get vodka early morning. Well, it wasn't that early. I think the liquor stores in Oregon open up around like 11 or whatever. But anyways, decided I was going to get some vodka. Why waste time? Why not just get drunk, have fun? And so I went out and bought some vodka, and I drank it. And after I did that, I was drunk for the first long period of time in my life. That it set off, I honestly can't remember that much of it, but it was probably about 2 weeks of everyday drinking. And that's when my problems really, really started. And then alcohol became something that was so important to my life. And I was drinking in the middle of the night. I was drinking, I was in school. Like I said, I was in college, and I wasn't attending class, and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, and I was lying to my significant other. And what my life had become was I basically dropped out of school and told my family and my loved ones that I was still going to college. I would go to the liquor store, buy a big bottle of vodka, and I would go to a bridge underneath in Portland and sit underneath it all day and drink, pass out, wake up, drink. And that became my life. I mean, I literally would spend more than half my day underneath the bridge drinking, and then going home and finding an excuse to party and drink some more. And it just started becoming this terrible cycle. And so alcohol became my whole life. It became everything. Once, people started seeing that it was a problem, it came out, and it was obvious. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to hide alcohol and your alcoholism when you smell like it all the time, and there are bottles everywhere. And so it came out, and I was like, okay, people are like, you got to stop drinking. And I was like, I didn't feel ready, but I also felt pressure to stop. But I had this bright idea that I was going to switch from alcohol to opioids. And I'm sorry if this is a little triggering to people, but this is, a really important part of my story of of what I've overcome. And, I switched very quickly, and it was like this light bulb went off. Oh my gosh, I'm one of the people who, when they take drugs like that, it gives them energy as opposed to making them want to pass out. And I didn't smell, and, nobody would know. And it was just this genius idea. I can quit drinking, and I can do this, and I'll be fine. Not thinking of any of the consequences, not thinking of addiction, just thinking, oh, I'll use it in moderation. I don't have a problem. Alcohol is done. I'll just take these. In about a year to under a year's time, this was in 2012, my life went from zero to complete shit. I mean, I was stealing from everybody. I was taking hundreds of milligrams a day in pills. I was lying to everybody I love. I'd lost 30 pounds. My life had fallen apart. I was barely eating. I was barely sleeping. All I do was taking drugs and trying to find a way to get more drugs and do all of those things. And my life got terrible. I mean, I had stolen priceless family heirlooms from people, and I had done things that I would never do. And that stuff was eating me up inside. And, I finally hit my bottom, and it was not pretty. It was not good. And I ended up checking myself into, finally, after years of people telling me I needed help, and to get professional help from alcoholism and then to my pill addiction. I finally checked in, and I was so hopeless emotionally, spiritually. I felt so lost. And I checked into the place and I cried for 3 days, and I finally felt, I felt just so broken, and life felt like it had no meaning, and I felt like I was never going to get better. And on the fourth day, I woke up and my outlook changed. Something, I don't know if I just needed to cry it out, but what was happening, but my perspective shifted. And I was able to look at the experience and what I was going through and what was happening as a chance to start over. And I was able to look at it as a chance to be the person that I always wanted to be, but never thought it was possible anymore because of my addictions. I struggled with drugs and alcohol for over 10 years. So it was just who I was. I didn't think I was going to get better. I didn't think it was possible. But then I had that light go off where, like, holy shit, this might be your chance. You might be able to get better. Like, I think you can do this. I see who you could be in the future, and you can do it. And when that light bulb went off, it was an awakening of sorts. It was a realization that I could get better. And it was just the most liberating, freeing experience I've ever had. It was just, well, not ever had. There's other ones too that I could probably share about too, but it was just this magnificent moment, aha moment. And I believed that I could do it. And since then, well, I had to wean myself off the drugs because I was going through withdrawals. But on October 1st, 2013, that was the first day that I never used drugs. I hadn't used drugs in over a decade, and I haven't used since. So now I have 7+ years, haven't touched a single drug or drink. And, for me, that's being completely abstinent is the only thing that works for me. For other people, they can obviously do what works for them. But I mean, that's overcoming the odds. People die from that. People don't come back from it. People don't, find the opportunities and the chances like I had, the privilege that I had to get better. And so I'm just so grateful that I don't live that life anymore. And I have a wife and I have 3 kids and I'm pursuing my dreams and I'm doing all of the things that I wanted to do but never thought was possible. And I'm just so grateful for that. So I just wanted to share my addiction story with you and let you know, that to me is my proudest achievement and the longest odds of me overcoming thus far in my life.